Famitsu was an otaku who deeply loved Akihabara's unique culture. One day, he got caught up in a battle against mysterious creatures called the Bud Ones, who attacked humans and turned them into monsters. After being saved by a girl named Madame, Famitsu joined her in fighting these Bud Ones in an unusual way, by stripping off their clothes so that sunlight could hit their skin and destroy them. Together with his friends, he made it his mission to protect Akihabara and the otaku lifestyle he cherished so much. The story began when Akihabara was attacked by vampire-like creatures known as the Bud Ones. A man named Famitsu and Madame worked together to fight them. The only way to defeat those creatures was by removing their clothes, since their bodies were highly sensitive to the open air. One day, Famitsu was running alone trying to escape from a woman who kept chasing him. Exhausted, he stopped to catch his breath, only to realize that she was already right behind him. Famitsu immediately ran again to avoid her. He thought he had managed to lose her, but the woman found him once more. She persistently tried to convince Famitsu to buy a piece of artwork worth 950,000 yen, even offering him a 5-year installment plan. She urged him to come back to the gallery and fill out some paperwork. Famitsu agreed on one condition, that she would join him in his battle. He then claimed that he was Prince Mabu-ni, sent to Earth by the space goddess Goldeva from the 11th world of Tekken Rizzer, on a mission to collect the Mobamo Silitaro emblems. The woman looked terrified as Famitsu continued his bizarre explanation that made no sense at all. She decided to walk away quickly, leaving him behind. Famitsu was surprised that the story he wrote back in middle school actually helped him scare off the gallery woman. Not long after, Famitsu's younger sister Niwaka ran up to him. She looked confused and asked why he had left her when she had told him to wait. Famitsu apologized and explained that he had just been ambushed by a newly revived Mulian. Niwaka had no idea what he was talking about. Famitsu went on to say that Ulians were Akihabara's original monsters that could start a war if too many of them appeared. Niwaka then invited Famitsu to go to animate with her to buy a new manga that came with a special bonus. Famitsu was not interested, but Niwaka begged him to come along so they would not get separated again. She asked him to wait at the nearby figure shop. Suddenly, Niwaka looked up in shock and saw a woman falling from the sky. People screamed in surprise, and some even started taking pictures and recording videos. Famitsu had no idea what was going on and was shocked to see that the woman was perfectly fine after the fall. The woman introduced herself as Matome and warned that the area was dangerous. Sure enough, a group of Bud Ones landed nearby and immediately attacked her. Matome reacted quickly, swinging her baseball bat at them. One of the Bud Ones lunged at her, but she struck back and leaped upward, pulling off the creature's clothing, which rendered it unconscious. She soon realized that the enemies she faced were only low-level Bud Ones. Suddenly, Tsurubashi and his bodyguards appeared. They were local residents of Akihabara who came to announce that the show was over and asked the onlookers to disperse. Famitsu was confused, wondering if what they had just witnessed was merely a performance. Tsurubashi scolded Matome, but she immediately jumped high into the air and disappeared. Tsurubashi rushed off to chase her. Niwaka, meanwhile, commented that the performance had actually been really good. Later, while Niwaka was enjoying some bread, Famitsu looked irritated because he could not find the item he had been searching for at the figure shop. Niwaka asked if what they had seen earlier had any connection to the Bud Ones. The dark rumors surrounding those creatures had been spreading quickly. Niwaka had heard from a classmate's older sister that once someone became a Bud One, they would gain superhuman powers and go on a rampage, attacking others to spread the infection, like a vampire or a zombie. If that rumor were true, it could cause serious trouble, especially since the police were not taking any action and the public thought those incidents were just street performances. Famitsu dismissed the story, saying it was nothing more than a silly urban legend. Many people, he explained, had started trying out new things ever since the Akihabara government lifted the ban on street performances. Niwaka then asked Famitsu to go with her to Adore's cafe, but he refused. She continued to beg him to come along. A moment later, Famitsu received a message from Cage, saying he had found the item Famitsu wanted. Without hesitation, Famitsu left right away, leaving Niwaka behind. She looked disappointed, reminding herself that he had promised to spend the whole day with her. When Famitsu arrived at the store he was looking for, he was completely amazed to find every version of the Anatomy Ranger figures on display. His eyes were immediately drawn to the blue foie gras liver version, a limited edition that had only been available at the Almori event last year. It had been produced again since then because it wasn't popular, so Famitsu couldn't believe such a legendary figure was right there in front of him. He felt like fate itself had brought him to that store to claim the mystical collectible. Just as Famitsu reached out to grab the figure, a girl reached for it at the exact same time. Neither of them wanted to back down. The girl's name was Arisa. She said she had seen the figure first, so it rightfully belonged to her. Famitsu didn't expect her to be that strong. He couldn't even pull the box from her hands. Arisa explained that this rare liver version wasn't just a different color. It had a redesigned body to better reflect the original concept. She wanted to repaint it to match the authentic base color. Famitsu was surprised she even noticed that detail. Arisa admitted she loved the liver figures deeply and asked Famitsu to let her have it. Tematsu became distracted for a moment, and Arisa took the opportunity to snatch the figure from him. Overjoyed, she began spinning around in excitement. Tematsu asked Arisa to at least share what she truly felt about that rare figure. He wanted to talk about the blue liver together and even hope they could become friends through their shared passion. He realized that both he and Arisa had come to Akihabara searching for rare treasures, breathing in the same air of friendship and sharing the same collector's spirit. Arisa was touched by his words, saying that he had spoken straight to her heart. When Tematsu offered a handshake as a friendly introduction, he was secretly planning to grab the figure again. But before he could make a move, a loud crash echoed through the store. Matome suddenly appeared and mentioned something about the Bud Ones before launching an attack on Arisa. Shocked, Arisa quickly dodged Matome's strike. Matome demanded that Arisa reveal her true identity, but Arisa had no idea what she was talking about. Matome insisted that Arisa must be one of the Bud Ones, judging by her unusual outfit and her superhuman strength. Worried that the fight might damage the figures inside the store, Arisa decided to fight back to protect them. Her punches landed solidly, forcing Matome to respond by pushing Arisa away, sending them both crashing out of the store and onto the street. Arisa tried to escape, but Matome chased her relentlessly. Meanwhile, bystanders began recording the fight on their phones. Not long after, Tematsu overheard people talking about an explosion at the Adores Cafe that had just happened that day. He suddenly remembered that Niwaka had wanted to visit that cafe. Panic set in and he ran straight toward the scene. When he arrived, a crowd had already gathered, and Tsuruba she was helping keep people away from the area. Tematsu tried calling Niwaka, but her phone didn't connect. Without hesitation, he rushed inside and climbed to the upper floor. When he opened the door, he saw several customers sitting motionless. He approached one of them to ask about his little sister, but the customer suddenly screamed, startling Tematsu and knocking him to the ground. The people around him looked almost like vampires ready to attack. Terrified, Tematsu froze until someone suddenly tore through the strange energy surrounding those people and they instantly collapsed. It was Matome. She said she had seen Tematsu around before, though she thought he tended to get in her way. Tematsu explained that he was looking for his sister, and as he looked around, he spotted Niwaka lying unconscious on the floor. He rushed to her side, but one of the Bud Ones lunged forward, trying to strike him with a fork. Matome jumped in to protect him, taking the hit on her shoulder. She told Tematsu to take his sister and get out of there. Tematsu hesitated, worried about Matome's injury, but she told him that he was only slowing her down, and that next time she might not be there to save him. After Tematsu left with Niwaka, another Bud One attacked Matome, and she defended herself using the fork and her staff, forcing the enemy back. Tematsu stopped in an empty room, shaken by everything that had just happened. Suddenly, Arisa dropped down from an air vent and greeted him. She said she had been caught up in a chase and that things had turned around unexpectedly. Her clothes had been torn during the fight, so she had changed into something else. Earlier, Matome had chased her down, but later realized that Arisa wasn't one of the Bud Ones and apologized for the misunderstanding. Out of curiosity, Arisa had decided to follow Matome afterward. Tematsu then realized that Matome often stripped her opponents of their outer layers to neutralize them. Arisa looked at Niwaka and teasingly asked if the cute girl with him was his girlfriend. Before Tematsu could answer, Niwaka woke up and said that her older brother didn't have a girlfriend and didn't have many friends either. Tematsu looked annoyed hearing that. Tematsu asked Arisa to take Niwaka somewhere safe. He trusted Arisa because he believed she shared the same spirit and determination as him. Tematsu was determined to go and fight the Bud Ones, but Arisa doubted his ability, thinking his physical strength was below average. However, Tematsu reignited his own fighting spirit by recalling a line from episode 34 of Anatomy Ranger. Arisa was unexpectedly impressed by his passion and decided to support whatever he planned to do. With renewed determination, Tematsu rushed off to help Matome. At that moment, Matome was on a rooftop, surrounded by numerous Bud Ones. To those creatures, Akihabara belonged solely to them, and all humans were meant to obey their rule. The Bud Ones attacked her from every side. At first, Matome managed to dodge their attacks skillfully, but soon her arms were restrained and their leader struck her repeatedly. Bruised and exhausted, she was accused of being a traitor. For a brief moment, Matome wondered if this would be her end. Suddenly, a cloud of gas burst toward the attackers. It was Tematsu who had come to help her. Thanks to his distraction, Matome was able to break free and rejoin the fight. Tematsu tried to spray them again, but his gas canister was already empty. One of the Bud Ones kicked him hard, sending him flying. Matome was confused about why Tematsu had come, but before she could ask, the Bud One's leader attacked again, knocking her down. The leader aimed a sharp object toward her chest, ready to strike, but at the last second, Tematsu threw himself in front of her to protect her. The attack hit him instead. Matome froze in shock, unable to comprehend why he would risk himself like that. The leader tried to go after them again, but Matome managed to escape while carrying the wounded Tematsu away from the scene. Tematsu lay weak in her arms and tried to speak, reminding her of his own words, that she should always follow what sparks her interest. But before he could finish what sounded like a final message, he went completely still. Madame desperately tried to wake him up. Tears fell as she begged him not to die, not for her, not like this. Refusing to accept his death, she gently held him close and pressed her lips against his, channeling a mysterious energy between them. A brilliant light surrounded their bodies, and moments later, something miraculous happened. Feimatsu opened his eyes again, confused and disoriented. Madame felt an overwhelming sense of relief. She explained that she had performed what she called a transcendence operation, something that went beyond fate itself, though it came with side effects. Before they could process what had just happened, more bug ones appeared. One of them, still holding a metal fork, lunged at them. Feimatsu instinctively caught the weapon midair and managed to defeat the attacker in an unusual way by removing parts of the creature's outfit, exposing it to the open air. Everyone watching, including the remaining bug ones, was stunned. Feimatsu realized something: these creatures were sensitive to direct air exposure. That meant the fastest way to neutralize them was to remove their clothes. Acting quickly, he disarmed several of them using this strange yet effective method. But the Bud One's leader attacked again and managed to strike Feimatsu hard enough to knock him off the rooftop and onto the street below. Madame rushed down to reach him. More Bud Ones surrounded them, but Feimatsu fought back, defeating them one by one using the same unconventional strategy. Finally, when the leader lunged toward him, Feimatsu threw a piece of fabric, caught hold of the leader's clothes, and pulled them away in one swift motion, ending the fight. A crowd began to gather, thinking the whole scene was part of a movie shoot. Some even recorded it with their phones. Feimatsu, still catching his breath, accidentally found himself staring at the defeated leader, who was left partially unclothed. Embarrassed, he quickly looked away when he noticed Matoma had caught him doing so. Surprisingly, Madame wasn't angry. She said she was impressed by how effectively he handled the situation. Matoma then introduced herself properly, but Feimatsu chuckled, saying her name reminded him of a mayonnaise brand reviewer. Madame apologized, saying that ever since that moment, Feimatsu would no longer be able to live a normal life. He had seen the hidden side of Akihabara, a side filled with mysteries, and now he was destined to keep fighting alongside her. However, while Madame was speaking seriously, Feimatsu seemed distracted, barely listening to her words. He casually suggested that they go to a clothing store nearby so they could get changed. Madame tried to explain something else, but Feimatsu already understood this was only the beginning of their new battle together.